All right, now we have all our pieces together. It's a nice time to look and see if we need some additional pieces. It would be nice to have some sky back in this area, or something with a cloud texture, even though I'm going to be putting water over it or behind it. We haven't figured it out yet. It would also maybe be nice to have another glacier element. So I go back to some of my images, and I'm going to bring something else in. So let's see. Maybe this glacier can be of use somewhere. Remember, Command minus can zoom out. So that sky texture is not quite what I want, but that glacier could be useful. I'm trying to think where. Maybe in this area. I think I'll flip the negative before I place it. Shrink it a little bit more. Use the magic wand. Select around what I want. Or around what I don't want in this case, and delete it. Rasterize it so I can delete it. And then use the move tool with auto select layer on to place it. Let's see, let's move it about right there. Because I actually like that mountain range a fair amount. Okay. Let's see what happens if we move that in front of it. Yes. Kinda. So now this is where a blending is going to be necessary. So I have these two elements, and if I move this one on top, it kind of replaces the sky. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the opacity down on that front element. I'm going to see what elements I actually want to erase from it. And I think I want that mountain range to come through instead of this one. So I use my soft edged eraser. And I'm going to softly reveal that mountain range at 100%. And then the water underneath it, like so. Then I take this back to 100% opacity. And now I need to blend in this sky. So now I have the mountains coming through. Let's soften this coastline a little bit. We'll get more and more specific and refined as we go. To blend organics like this, I'm going to make my brush even bigger. Sometimes I'll just do it huge, like this, and then you can get really soft transitions doing what I call a ghosting technique. Let's let the Photoshop catch up with me there. Where if it's a soft-edged eraser, it will erase even outside of the circle a little bit. There's a little halo, kind of a ghosty halo that it will carry with it. Okay. Remember, you always have your history states. If you want to take it back a few steps and see what you've done. And so that transition is working okay. That extra element helped to kind of bridge those several elements together. And I can ask myself, do I want this bridge still? And I think so, but maybe in a different location, maybe in a slightly different way. Maybe I want it in front of the whale. You know, more in the foreground. That could be interesting. And how can I set it off against this? So these are all the questions we have to ask. Okay, the next transition I see is this is actually working quite well. This glacier cliff going into the side here. What isn't working so well is this hard edge peeking through. I kind of over erased. So what I'm going to do is go back to this image. And I'm going to soften out with my eraser that hard edge. Keep everything kind of nice and organic. That's why we're starting with landscape. And if I need to, I can do a clone stamp or a healing brush. Let's keep it simple and just use the clone stamp to start. And actually extend some of this color and texture behind so you don't have that hard edge. So the way the clone stamp works, and we'll be using this a lot in later projects, is you hold down Option, and you can use it at different opacities. I'm going to do it at 100% opacity. You hold down Option to target where you want to copy from. So if I want to copy from this content, and then I can paint that content in over here, which can be really helpful because I want more of this kind of wispy cloud texture. Oh, I went a little too far and got the mountain though. So I can change where my target starts. And it's still a nice soft-edged brush. Right? And if I really paint that behind here, that allows me to erase a little bit more from my other layer to get what I want. See? So now I have all this kind of sky behind it. Now, if you use it without changing your target too much, especially at 100%, you start to get this copy-pasty feel, which isn't all that helpful. So to really finish it off, I'll do it at a lower opacity and hit some of those areas that feel too similar. But now let me erase from this one with the soft eraser. Softer than that. Maybe even, for the first time, a low opacity eraser, so it's only taking down part of the image. You'll see how effective erasers are. Now don't erase to try to make the colors match. I'm well aware that these colors are brighter or more saturated than these, but that's the next step, is adjusting colors. We're just trying to get our edges where we want them right now. Where can this guy go? Or is it better without that thing? Whatever this weird thing is. Yeah, I might just turn it off for the moment. I still have plenty of references that I'm using. All right, so now I'm going to work on the whale, and it's got this edge I want to erase from. I'm going to take my opacity back to 100% on my eraser. And then obviously with the bones and the water and all this good stuff, I have to make decisions about what I want to keep and what I want to erase. Always interesting challenges. Okay. It's starting to look pretty good. So now I'm going to save it. Got my edges kind of working. Now I've got to worry about lighting and color. About the last 5 minutes of this demo. And I feel like this one's a little bit too colorful, so let me start with that. I'm going to select that layer, I'm going to go to Image Adjustments, and the first thing I'm going to do is play with Color Balance. Color Balance is a really nice, subtle color tool, and it can help me push away in the midtones, is a good place to start, from all those cyans. Maybe put a little bit more yellows into it. See, to kind of match the lighting of this a little better. Maybe take a little bit of the magentas out, or maybe put a little back in. And you can do it with your highlights and your shadows as well. It's very subtle, but it makes a big difference in the believability of the light. This is the temperature of the light that you're changing. Okay, and then what we can also do, because that's just so vibrant, is I can go to Hue Saturation under Direct Adjustments, and I can take just the overall saturation down of that layer. It's just a little too colorful. So by doing that, makes a big difference. So this was it before I did color balance. This was after color balance. This was after hue saturation. To get it to kind of match in the lighting and coloring of this lake underneath it. I can do the same thing with the whale bones. Start with color balance. In the midtones. Let me get a little bit more yellows in there. In the shadows, maybe a little bit more blue. Be a little less red. And my general approach is just to kind of push and pull and see which direction helps it. All right, and then you can always use your history to see if you like what happened. So I like that improvement. Now I'm going to go to hue saturation, and just like you can take the saturation down, I can take the saturation up if I feel it's needed. Here I'm just going to take it down a little bit. In fact, I'm actually going to target the reds in this image, which are there, and I'm going to take those down because there's not a lot of red in this image. I can even shift those reds to a different spectrum. The magentas, let's see where those are. Yeah, those are subtle, so I don't need to worry too much about that. So that's working a little bit better, but the problem is if I squint, the lights and darks are so much stronger here than they are here. So I'm also going to adjust the levels, which are the lights and darks of the whale layer. And what I want to do is exaggerate some of the lights. I can shift the midtones a little bit brighter or a little bit darker to match what's around it. So that's matching a little better there. I can even limit how deep the shadows are. So if it's in bright light, so maybe make those shadows not quite so dark by limiting that range. And they're all just matters of subtlety and degree, these adjustments, but they can make a big difference, with the aim of people not being able to tell where one element ends and the next begins. Okay? Then lastly, this sky. Same sort of adjustments. Maybe start with levels and just in general make it a little bit brighter in the midtones.